Offerings by Roz Clarke. James. You think you know what silence is? Says Stephanie, sipping from the hip flask and handing it to me. And then you come somewhere like this, and it's like, you know, like the world doesn't reach it, or... Her voice trails off, and I finally get to experience some of that silence she's talking about. The echoes of her words take a while to fade, and the memories of the heat of the day. Sun glinting from car roofs, toilet stops, radio chatter, ale, roast lamb, and arguments in the Crow and Brooch. Silence comes down from the sky and up from the ground. It fills the night as surely as the cool darkness fills this space beneath the trees. And, deeper yet, the waters of the well, upon whose lichen-clad holding stones we sit. The well is ancient and holy, a black rectangle, the same size and shape as our king-size bed in Clapham, pinpricked with reflected stars. At one side stands a Celtic stone cross, taller than a man, carved with interlocking lines and green with moss. The stones edging the well are uneven, hand-hewn, but worn to comfortable curves. I revel in their dry roughness at the back of my legs, the damp springy turf beneath my hands where I lean back, and the cold smooth water chilling our feet. I used to love being alone with her in places like this. Just the two of us, and all that night, all that history. I take a mouthful of the whiskey, savouring the burn as it runs down my throat. It stops me feeling as though I need to speak. Lately, I prefer to be alone by myself. She breaks the silence again. You can really feel what a sacred place this is, can't you? Yes, I think. It is sacred. But I know she doesn't see the same kind of holiness I do. The simple magic of midnight, deep still water, and a canopy of leaves. The sense of continuity, our connection to the legions of human beings bringing their hopes and fears to this place, season after season, seeking blessings, seeking healing. She's talking about God again. I take another hit from the hip flask and hand it back to her. She's sitting with her arms around her knees, her chin resting on top of them. Her face is a pale shadow, framed by blonde hair that falls like folds of silk around it. I can't see an expression, just black pools where her eyes are. I want to claim this place for my kind of holy. I want her to feel what I feel. They used to worship a serpent here, you know. Before the words are out of my mouth, I remember that today they'll have the opposite effect. They will annoy her. But it's true, at least as far as anyone knows. The theory is that St. Morrill never existed, and the name is a corruption of Morel, or Morel. The Morel was a giant serpent that was said to live beneath the waters, and would heal the sick in return for sacrificial offerings. You had to come to the well before dawn, and walk around the water 3 times. Oh, James, for goodness sake, give it a rest. It's a bit late for lectures. You're just trying to wind me up anyway. Who cares about some old superstitious rubbish? She's winding me up now. She's got a nerve, talking to me about lectures. Even in the pub this evening she couldn't keep her judgments to herself. You've got to sort your life out, James. Stop kicking out against everything, James. Grow up, James. Get a grip. Her conditions. I never said I believed in it, I say. She's huddling even tighter around her knees now. You don't believe in anything. Every beautiful moment you have to screw it up. Don't know why you have to be so cruel. I'm not being cruel, I protest. I'm just telling you the story. You used to like it when I told you stories. Her head is down. I can't see anything of her face now. Well, they were all right when you weren't mocking me. Or perhaps you were all along and I just didn't realize. You should have had a badge or something. No soul. Then I'd have known not to bother falling in love with you. I sit staring at the water. There's no answering her when she's in this mood. And I stopped trying a while ago. She's called me soulless before, but I don't think that's what she really means. The accusation is so utterly unfair, so far off the mark it doesn't hit me, and I'm too tired of fighting to summon any anger. This weekend was meant to be a fresh start, a chance for us to work things out on neutral territory, somewhere peaceful, romantic. The trouble is, you bring all that shit with you wherever you go. Wherever. The sense of communion with my ancestors, of belonging to this sacred community of humans that I had a moment ago, has turned to disgust. The world would have been better without people in it. I want the whiskey back, but she's not passing it. She's still talking. I am still in love with you, you know. Really? I don't mean it to sound so sarcastic. Do you think I'd want to have a child with you if I wasn't? I honestly don't know. Sometimes I wonder if she's more in love with the idea of having a family than she is with me. Sometimes I think she looks at me and just sees years of blessed maternal fulfillment stretching ahead, with me some shadowy figure in the background, providing the cash and taking the occasional turn at the school run. And I see a V-school, of course. I don't know if that's fair. I haven't asked. Don't start that again, Steph. We've been over it. James, do you love me? Of course I do. She's crying, I think. I move up alongside her and put my arm around her shoulders. Kiss her cheek, find salty wetness there. She looks so small. Still, I expect her to pull away, and it's a shock when her lips find mine. Swift and eerie, the silence returns. The stone beneath hers is cold and hard. I push her dress up above her thighs, and she wraps herself around me. When I'm inside her, she starts to shudder, holding me fiercely with arms and legs, and I'm quickening, losing control. Suddenly, I feel small too. We are small, and soft and warm in the vast dark, and it's all so terribly fucking fragile. I love you, I murmur in her ear. She bucks beneath me one last time and lies still. Her eyes are open, staring blackly into mine. No, you don't. You love this. A hard squeeze. Your trouble, James, is you've no moral centre. You don't realise you shouldn't lie. You'd understand if you'd had faith, but you don't. Not in me, not in our future, not in yourself. You don't know what love is. You can't quantify love, James. It comes from somewhere deeper. I've heard all this before. At least she's giving me the short version. I roll off her, wordless again. I turn my back to her and find myself staring down into the well. Seamus. Not long before sunrise, but not long enough. I rise from where I've been lying with my son next to the water. There's mud on my hands. I wipe them on the grass and turn to help Bryac to his feet. He wanted to look, to see if we could spot the serpent in the water. It's too dark to see anything else, much less the moral. But I'm glad he's curious. Other boys might be afraid, but mine is brave, despite the weakness in his legs and the smallness of him. I'd have been afraid if it were me, but I've been lucky. Just the one fever that didn't last. But I'm thinking, too, of the children who are less lucky than Bryac. My brother's daughter last year, and Shyla's cousin's babe the spring before. Not even one breath in this world, and no chance to ask for healing. Bryak doesn't remember. He's too young. Those bent legs won't hold him, so he struggles to stand. I scoop him into my arms and look at Shyla. She's standing ready with the rag to wind about his legs. Her hair is loose. Though I can't really see it, I sense it moving in the breeze, lifting and falling across her shoulders, blowing over her face. I want to touch her, to run my hands over her pregnant belly, to include our unborn baby in this moment. But my hands are full. She will present her own offerings to the morrow over at the old oak, while I carry Bryak round the well. It's a mild night, with no rain, and I'm glad of that. We'll dry quicker after we're done. The air is sweet, grass and heather and the water itself, subtler than in the daytime, when the serpent sleeps and the well is just an irregular circle of water where sheep go to drink. She passes the woolen rags around his legs, first one farthest from my body, and then the one I'm holding against me. She is all tenderness, and I rest my forehead against hers as she works. The three of us connected. The four of us. When she's finished, I pull myself away from her heat and solidity, and we are both lessened. She stretches a hand out, touches my back as I walk away. I make my circle, 3 times around the water. We are not alone, the boy and I. Vague shapes resolve into friends and neighbours as I move among them. 3 times round, and I sit with him in the soft mud at the edge of the water. "Can you see the snake, Barter?" he asks. I can't see him, but keep looking. He's there somewhere. Carefully, both arms around his small body, I lift him and walk into the well, until I'm standing up to my waist. My toes find a hold in the stones and slime, and I gently lower Bryak into the water, legs first. He draws breath as the cold comes up his thighs, but he doesn't cry out. I want to cry out for him, but I bite my tongue and clasp him to me. "James." "I'm sorry," she says. After a long pause, in a voice both bright and dark, she adds, "We should swim." She's standing up and shucking out of her dress. Naked, limbs long and dappled with moonlight, she looks like a fairy creature, a naiad or a selkie about to transform. Unobtainable. She slips into the well, all in one movement, and treads water on her back. I look down at her hair fanning out across the surface. I'll never be able to follow her, I think. Then wonder where the thought came from. "Come on, not as cold as it looks." She's gasping. Still in my t-shirt, I sit up on the stones at the edge of the well and drop my feet back into the water. It's fucking freezing. Holding my breath, I let go of the stone and plummet downwards. For a moment, I imagine myself falling down forever, into the lair of the serpent, its coils wrapping about my ankles. Then, I'm up again, breaking the surface next to Stephanie. Wet cloth feels like it's trapping the cold and fear against my skin. I grab air, find my balance, and try to keep as still as possible, to let that silence back in. "What are you afraid of?" "I'm scared of the snake," I say, laughing shakily. "What if it catches hold of our legs and pulls us down?" "It didn't sound like a bad serpent to me," she says. "Perhaps I should let it grab you." Mercurial, she ducks beneath the water and twines her arms around my waist. Seamus. Around the edge of the well, half the tribe has gathered. To my right, my cousin Brendan helps his wife down across the slippery mud and sharp stones. She slips and he catches her. She's weak from birthing their last, but the little boy is well, and she lives yet, which is a blessing after all the bleeding she did. We plough together, Brendan and I, and we live closer than brothers. They don't look over, but they know we're here, and why. Morel grant us blessing and heal our ills, and keep us well, and our children, and the animals and trees, watered with this water, I murmur. Bryac twists in my arms, looking up at me. Ready? I ask. He nods, and closes his eyes tight. Quick as I can, I push him down below the surface, and pull him up again, water streaming from his hair. He splutters, but smiles when he's caught his breath. I didn't see him, Bata, he says. I kept my eyes closed the whole time, like this. And he screws them up again. But I'm sure he was there. It was warmer under the water. He has no fear, I think, because he doesn't know. He's never waded out of his depth. Never felt the deep sucking at his body. Never felt the coils of the serpent that bring death as well as life, swelling in the water beneath his feet. James. Glad to be out of the water, and even happier to have Stephanie back on dry land, I run back to the car and fetch towels, a blanket, dry clothes, and a couple of slightly overripe bananas. Her dress, damp with dewfall, and my sodden t-shirt hang over a low branch at the side of the path. We huddle together for warmth. She rests her head on my shoulder, and for a while it's as though nothing was ever wrong, as though we can still connect, still feel safe in our feelings for one another. What are you afraid of? She asks again. I don't know. I'm afraid of losing her, afraid I never really had her in the first place. I'm afraid of her fearlessness. The other thing she said, back in the Crow and Brooch. You don't want to have a baby because you're too selfish and too frightened. You can't open your heart to other people. How can you say you love me when you won't risk the pain of real love? The community of our ancestors crowds around me again. I imagine the ghosts whispering to one another. Past, but no future. How much has been lost? This man is breaking the chain. You're wrong, I whisper back. There are so many of us now. She's the selfish one, isn't she? The question can't be asked. The ghosts don't answer. The well stays silent. I think Stephanie's fallen asleep. I sit with one arm around her, my shoulder aching with the familiar weight, while my mind grows as still as the shadows beneath the oaks, and my heart cools. I love her, and I can't answer her accusations. Seamus. Holding the boy tight against me, I climb up, away from the water. Walking is harder now, wet trews clinging heavy to my legs. Brendan and Fran call out to me, and when we meet on the path, I say, we should level these stones, Bren. I'm going to ask the chiefs, maybe after harvest time, before it gets too cold. He nods. You think the Moral won't be angered if we change the well? I don't think so, and we discuss it until Bryac starts to shiver in my arms. I look for Shyla. She's standing by the twisted oak, amongst the other women, waiting for us. She has already tied her offering to the tree, a rust-red length of wool, knitted especially for the purpose. Every row catching and holding her love, her hope, her prayers. She reaches out to us, stroking first his cheek and then mine. I set Bryac on the ground, and she hands me my tunic, belt and pouch. She must be tired. We walked for an hour to come to the well in time, and we had not slept before that. But she is full of life, and at her touch, some of her warmth enters me. We both unwrap Bryac's legs, taking one apiece. She rubs his goose-bumped flesh, while I take the sodden rags to the tree, and add them to the others, already hanging there. The tree is covered with offerings like ours, some wet, freshly hung this morning. Most are dry, faded, in various states of decay. I wonder how it is that cloth can carry away the sickness that ails my son. I wonder if the serpent will bless us, and how long it will take. A lifetime? It can take a lifetime for the gift to be given. I look at them, Bryac and Shyla together. He has his arms about her neck, and she's whispering something to him, pointing at me. He laughs. My heart has become too large for my chest to hold. Its pounding fills my ears and beats back at me from the hills around us. The sky is starting to pale in the east. James. Dawn breaks the spell, says Stephanie, taking my hand and leading me back to the car. I keep quiet. I'm still half asleep and stiff with cold, but a feeling of sorrow and disconnection sits in my bones. Whatever spell there might have been, we broke it ourselves. I think I understand now why she wants to believe, but I keep quiet. She'll think I'm being patronizing, mocking her again. What do you think, James? She asks, halfway to Dumfries. About what? You know, fresh start. Maybe talk some more about having a family. Not right now, I mean, but someday soon. We can take it slowly. I don't mind. Unless, of course... She pauses for a moment while I navigate a tight corner. I don't need to look to know she's chewing her lip and frowning. Finally, she answers herself. I believe you, I think. I think you do love me, in your own way. I think we can make a go of things. A shiver takes me. I have to force my hands to stay on the wheel. I glance sideways at her. She's looking at the road, not at me. Her hair hangs down over her ear. What? Stephanie, I don't think... My tongue is swollen in my mouth. My heartbeat comes thick and heavy. My veins run dark like the peat smoke flavour in the whiskey, but without the fire. Heavy coils are shifting in the darkness at the back of my mind. It's not that I don't want to be with you. It's just I don't think I can do the rest. I wait for her response, but nothing comes. Her face, half hidden by the curtain of hair, is as impassive and unreadable as it was before, in the gloom beneath the trees. We drive on. The tyres hum against the tarmac. The engine whines. Other cars pass us by in a blur of sound, and the silence is back. I breathe and let it take me. On a low branch of a twisted oak, at the side of the well, her forgotten dress and my t-shirt twist and flap taut in the rising breeze.